Despite government promises to cut the number of migrants arriving in the UK, migration levels are projected to increase to 245,000 people each year. Net migration will reach 245,000 a year from 2026-27 onwards, up from a previous estimate of 205,000 in November. The latest forecast from the Office for Budget Responsibility showed. Statistics Office figures released last November showed that UK net migration was 504,000 in the year to June, the highest figure since records began. As to high recent migration into the country, the OBR pointed to the return of international travel following the pandemic, as well as changes to the post-Brexit immigration system. UK government urged to offer safe and legal route for asylum seekers as poll shows support. Survey finds support for proposal that would allow in up to 40,000 a year with strong asylum claims and ties to Britain. Half of the British public would support the creation of visas allowing asylum seekers to travel safely to the UK rather than in small boats, new polling suggests. The new government has not yet put forward any proposals for new safe and legal routes for refugees and is focusing on creating the UK Border Security Command to target people smugglers. But polling by Focal Data for the British Future think tank found that 50% of people and almost two-thirds of Labour voters back a scheme in which humanitarian visas could be granted to up to 40,000 people a year with strong asylum claims or links to the UK. Only 16% of people disapproved of the proposed scheme in the survey, which also showed support for the new government's move to scrap the Rwanda policy and process the asylum claims of thousands of small boat migrants who are stuck in limbo. On Friday, 4 people died when their dinghy sank in the English Channel, the latest tragedy in a record year for crossings that has so far seen more than 14,000 people reach British shores. Sundar Katwala, the director of British Future, warned that there were limits to what better policing of the channel can achieve on its own. He said a humanitarian visa would help open up space for a new deal with France while also providing a safe route for people to claim asylum in the UK, undermining the business model of people smugglers. This evidence shows that Sir Keir Starmer can unlock public permission and support for a fairer and more effective approach. The polling of 2,500 adults found that half approved of the Labour government's decision to scrap the Rwanda scheme and spend the money on its new Border Security Command, while only 20% disapproved.
Are they going to be putting in the hospitals? Are they going to be putting more surgeries? So that's my main concern, how we're going to be able to cope, because we're not really coping now, are we?
There was support for all key migration policies in Labour's general election manifesto, with two-thirds of people backing plans to process all asylum applications lodged by people who have reached the UK, and 65% supporting a proposed new returns unit. More than half of respondents also approved of Labour's plans to end the use of hotels as asylum accommodation and its vow to act upstream to address humanitarian crises which lead people to flee their homes. Campaign groups have long argued that new safe and legal routes for asylum seekers are necessary to reduce demand for small boats. Under UK law, asylum can only be claimed in person on British soil. There is no visa to enter the country for that purpose. Eligibility for refugee resettlement schemes and family reunion is limited. The new government is understood to be evaluating how existing routes are functioning before drawing up any new policies. Enver Solomon, chief executive of the Refugee Council, said that Friday's tragedy showed that preventing more deaths was a critical and urgent task. He added, "We need to bring an end to men, women and children who have fled war and oppression in countries such as Afghanistan, Syria and Iran being driven into the arms of the smuggling gangs by opening safe routes so refugees wanting to be with their families are not forced to take deadly risks. We also need to put in place cooperation agreements with our European allies to provide safe passage from France and trial the use of refugee visas." The British Red Cross also called for change, with UK Director for Refugee Support Alex Fraser saying, "Nobody risks their life traveling across the channel in a small boat unless they feel they have no other choice. More safe routes are urgently needed to prevent people from taking dangerous journeys to reach the UK." The polling also showed that the new Prime Minister is more trusted on migration than his political rivals, with a 35% trust rating compared to 30% for Reform leader Nigel Farage, 25% for Rishi Sunak, and 23% for Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey. The Home Office has apologized to asylum seekers granted leave to remain in the UK, who then had their decisions retracted. In some cases, applicants were sent residence permits before being told by officials to cut them up. Charities said they had seen a number of cases where people celebrated getting leave to remain and believed they were safe at last, only to be told days or weeks later that a mistake had been made. Officials declined to say how many people had been affected by this error. In one case, an asylum seeker was jubilant after receiving a letter from Home Office officials stating your claim for asylum has been successful and you have been granted refugee status and 5 years permission to remain in the UK. I was so happy to receive this letter, the asylum seeker said. I and my family had been left in limbo for 2 years not knowing what was going to happen to me. But then a few weeks later I got another letter telling me the Home Office had made a mistake, that I hadn't received refugee status after all, and that I had to destroy the biometric residence permits they sent me. The second Home Office letter, marked official sensitive, states unfortunately an incorrect grant of leave has been given due to a technical fault in our system. The case will therefore need to be reconsidered so that we can amend this. Please cut up the cards, take a picture of the pieces and send this to us in an email with the dispatch reference number provided to you once posted. We apologize for any inconvenience caused and we thank you for your patience. In a second case, an Iranian couple received a phone call from Migrant Help, a Home Office contractor, informing them that they had leave to remain. We had waited 19 months for a decision, said one of the asylum seekers. It was such a relief to get this news. But 2 days later we received another phone call saying it had been a mistake. It was such a great shock to us, particularly because in the second phone call they told us our case had been completely rejected, not just that they were still considering it. 2 months later the couple received another decision from the Home Office, once again granting them asylum. The whole thing was an emotional roller coaster. When we got the decision granting us leave to remain the second time, we doubted it was true. I said to my wife, it's a joke, a cry wolf story. In a third case, a woman was evicted from a hotel because Home Office officials said she had been granted leave to remain, although no formal grant letter was sent to her. In subsequent Home Office correspondence, she was advised about how to voluntarily return to her home country. Lou Calvi, the director of the charity Asylum Matters, said they were aware of multiple cases where grants of leave had been withdrawn by the Home Office because they said they had made a mistake. It's sheer torment. It has devastating consequences on people that have often waited for years for their decision, only to then have the rug pulled out from them. The chaos in government processing decision-making is palpable. The new government urgently need to rebuild the basic functions of our asylum process. A Home Office spokesperson said, whenever we spot an issue with a case, our team will work as quickly as possible to resolve it. We apologize for any inconvenience and distress caused. We are committed to improving the quality and accuracy of our decision-making, which will maintain the integrity of the system and help reduce delays.